Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. Looks like we've got a bunch of people funneling in, so we'll just give it another minute and then we will kick off here.
Who here is experiencing a heat wave? Just kidding. Right. Wait, what's the weather like in the Midwest, Alex? Because aren't you technically in the Midwest?
We're getting some serious heat. It only feels like 102 here, so yeah, a little better than New York.
Yeah. Wait, did you see the news out of Hawaii and the tsunami? I did not know what was going on until this morning, and I was like, what did I miss?
Yeah, there was an earthquake in Russia, and that's now, I guess, now the whole Pacific coast is on tsunami watch.
Yeah.
It's wild.
I also learned Oprah apparently has like a private road somewhere in Hawaii, and it was like causing all this gridlock, and they were like, Oprah, open your road. I went down a rabbit hole on this. So if anyone wants to know anything about the tsunami and Oprah's private road, I have learned quite a bit in the last 24 hours.
Wow. But this is like reminding me of the Maui fires from a few years ago.
It was devastating.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I think I knew somebody that was like honeymooning there then too. And it was just bad. Like for the people that live there, and then anybody who was visiting, because they were like, well, we're trying to leave, but we actually can't leave. And now we're like straining everything more because we're stuck here. Right. Time.
Anyways, well, we can probably talk about that sort of stuff in a separate panel altogether. But I think today we all know why we're here, and I appreciate all of you taking a few minutes out of your busy days to join us. Very excited to be joined here by Heba and Kaylee, which I'll give some brief backgrounds in a minute. But, I think in thinking about how we wanted to put together this panel, obviously there's a lot of AI talk that's out there right now. And as I've been having conversations with HR leaders, and, we work with over 100 businesses from anywhere from 50 employees up to 20,000 employees across various industries. So really kind of running the whole gamut, had really been seeing a similar theme that kept popping up in both HR leader conversations, but also CEO and really just business leaders in general, which is like, hey, we're an AI first company. What does that really mean? And, beyond your people getting ChatGPT licenses or you starting to experiment with some sort of AI tools on an individual decentralized level, what does that really mean for our business? And then from an HR and L&D perspective, what does that mean for our people development strategy? So a lot of HR leaders I've been talking to, that's been the frantic question that has been asked is, what does this transformation of AI mean for overall people development? Not just the tools that we're using, but how are we even thinking about development more broadly? And the term that I've started thinking about is like mindset plus skill set, because I do really think that framing is what's going to be needed to take us to this next level of, okay, how are we thinking about development? So in terms of quick agenda today, really want to start with, okay, well, what has the last 6 to 12 months looked like in this transformation, giving you kind of a taste of a few different types of businesses and organizations and how that has looked, what is working well today, and just more tactical integration type stuff that has worked well from an AI perspective, and then getting a glimpse into what the next era of people development could look like. Whether it be how we're thinking about different core competencies, how we're thinking about management more broadly, and really just trying to get our crystal balls out and trying to think about what the future looks like. So that's going to be the agenda for today. And the goal is to really have you walk away with some tangible things that you can bring back into your day to day. And I'm confident that you'll be able to do that with the people that we have here today. So Heba and Kaylee, thank you so much for being here with us today. Really appreciate it. For those of you who don't know Heba, we've done a lot of work together. Heba is the founder of I Hate It Here, which I'm sure most of you here have heard of Heba, but she has an awesome newsletter, podcast, safe space community for HR leaders. And I've kind of thought about Heba of late as like the pulse of the HR community in a lot of different ways. And I think you've done a great job of just being the voice of the people. And I've really appreciated your content, and it's been awesome to partner with you. And that was actually how the introduction to Kaylee happened. So Kaylee, who's an L&D leader at SurveyMonkey and has a wide array of background in really implementing different learning and development strategies across businesses. And I think part of what I'm so excited about having both of you here today is just kind of the diverse perspective that you both bring to the table, where like Heba, you've kind of been in this startup world. Workweek is a 50 employee company that you're the chief people officer at. I hate it here, getting the voice of all of these different HR leaders today. So, whereas Kaylee, SurveyMonkey, 1,000+ employer, mature business, getting a different array of perspectives. So that's my spiel. And Kaylee, I heard you have a dog named Delta. I do. Is this true? I'm a big Delta flyer. Is there something I need to know here?
No, the like briefest way to tell the story is we got a 3-legged dog first, and we named her Charlie, Alpha Bravo Charlie. We wanted like a cute play on the 3 legs. So when we got the second dog, we were like, let's just run the alphabet. So
got it.
You can predict what the third dog would be named if should you know what that alphabet is.
Eleanor.
Exactly.
Awesome. And I want to just encourage everybody, like, as you have questions or thoughts along the way as we're talking, please throw them in the chat. So we will try to hit all of those along the way. And in the meantime, I think let's just start with the last 6 to 12 months. And Heba, maybe we'll start with you here. Just give me, what are boots in the ground looking like over the last 6 to 12 months at Workweek across your safe space community? What have the conversations been? And really, how has this conversation of AI kind of taken these various conversations by storm?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like 12 months ago, people were talking about AI. Like, I'm really trying to remember what the last year was like, but honestly, the last like 6 months feel like a blur. I was like trying to remember what I did yesterday, and I was like, that's a struggle too. But like 12 months ago, people were definitely talking about AI. I don't think we had yet got into like the first CEO writing their AI manifesto yet. Like, I feel like that really picked up in the last like 8 to 6 months, where CEOs were like, we're going to revolutionize how we do internal work. Our product has AI, but like our internal people also need to all leverage AI. And we've seen that pick up like quite frequently. Even like last week, I think Amazon said that every single person in their, I can't remember, the Alexa department maybe, is going to have to be judged on how they use AI. So like we're getting now from like 12 months ago, where like we were talking about it, use cases are floating around, HR companies are doing it, to like 8 to 6 months ago, leadership really starting to put their thoughts out there, to last week, in the last few weeks, people saying it's now going to be a part of assessing your performance and your growth at the company. And so that's kind of like what I've seen macro like happening out in the world. At Workweek, we've always been interested in like curiosity and like what new tech we're using. Our CEO has been obsessed with it, but he hasn't been one of those like, I want to push everybody to do exactly what I want them to do. So he started writing about just like interesting use cases in his Sunday newsletter. And he's like, what do you all think about this use case? Like, he always like puts questions in the newsletter, and that like started stroking like conversation. Then we actually added AI related questions to our pulse surveys. And what we found was 91% of the employees had used AI in the last month, and 51% of them said it was a game changer every day for them. Then we also asked like concerns, and the concerns were around like training. I don't know what I can use. We hadn't given budget to anybody yet for any official tools. And the last was like ethical concerns. And we were like, okay, how do we figure out how to address those, but then also still encourage our employees to use AI? And then we started doing like power hours, we called them, which is terrible. And I said we shouldn't call them power hours, but it became a joke at the company. Everyone was like, our AI power hour. So then we did like 6 AI power hour sessions where our CEO led and talked about use cases, or people actually built things and showed what they had built using AI. And so externally and internally, it's kind of mirroring the same type of story. I just think the way you talk about how people are embracing AI has been a little different.
And I think that's been a commonality that I've heard a lot, which is we're talking about specific use cases related to AI, and it's not necessarily thought of as like, okay, well, how are we thinking about managers more broadly, or upskilling and reskilling around core competency areas and things like that? So I guess I'm curious, Kaylee, are there a lot of similarities in what you've experienced over the last 6 to 12 months at SurveyMonkey? I know you mentioned you guys have been embedding this into your product pretty aggressively. So how is that translated from a people development perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's similar to what Heba said, and certainly the like product AI first piece came first. And then there was this sort of turn towards, okay, what are we doing internally with our employees? And as I shared with you all earlier, we have just transitioned into Google Workspace with Gemini. And so that has been a real game changer around just enabling AI work across the company. We're all in the same tool. We can help speak the same language. We're not wondering who's using what or like trying to put compliance over anything. So that's been a really helpful shift for us. And we just saw the opportunity to sort of train the team, not just in concepts, but in how to use the tools directly in the work. So there's a couple examples. So on the people team side, we had an offsite back in June, and we dedicated time for everyone to attend what we called sort of an AI in action training, which was really a hands-on session focused on AI tools, capabilities with the team. With all the tools that we had just gotten. So Notebook LM, GEMS, Gemini, and Google Sheets, really just grounded in real people team examples. So across the team and then in each of these kind of functions. On the manager and leader side, one thing I'm excited about is we've got our leadership offsite Directors Plus in September, and we're bringing in a professor, hopefully, this is like hot off the press, from Harvard Business School to kind of lead us through like what's the AI journey been in business, and then some like real case studies to help our leaders get hands-on, again, get that kind of practical practice outside of the SurveyMonkey box that'll help us innovate back into that box in the sort of follow-up session. So I think that's the sort of next step, is thinking about like, well, how do you really intentionally enable a company across all those functions to, it's the work smarter, not harder piece that AI can do so well.
Yeah. And I guess, how are you thinking about like the biggest core competency skill gaps that you guys are seeing in managers today versus 12 months ago? Like, is that answer still the same? And are you able to tackle that through the usage of these tools? Because I think a lot of the conversation, like for me, these AI use cases have largely been around, sending more efficient emails or different sorts of automation of workflows. But in terms of like making me a better leader, I know I have had some specific use cases around like preparing for one-on-ones or different sorts of core competencies that are critical for being a better leader in the workplace. I guess, are you guys thinking about those use cases as well?
Yeah, I'll go first, Kaylee. We're thinking about like every use case under the sun. Like I never wanted to be the HR leader that was like, marketing, here's how you use AI. I'm like, y'all should determine, you are the experts in this craft. You should determine how you use it. When it comes to managers, though, I would say like 12 months ago, the gap was still them being able to give good performance, actionable feedback. I would say this gap is still the same today. Like AI is not gonna instantly make a manager better at writing and delivering feedback. I think it can absolutely help on the writing side, but the delivering piece, I still think is like an ongoing competency gap for the average manager, because everyone just like wants to be liked. And when you have to give feedback, especially critical feedback, your like defensive guard actually like goes up as a manager delivering it, and your employee's defensive guard goes up as someone accepting it. And I think that is always the constant struggle with management. And I have not seen how AI could fix that problem yet.
Okay, so I got to test this great tool. This is a plug for this. We're not investing in it, but I totally agree, Heba. Like we spent a lot of time in the last year at SurveyMonkey talking about internal feedback, the like what happens in your brain, this fight or flight thing as a manager delivering as someone receiving it, and how challenging that is, and what a nice culture we have. Nice cultures don't don't always work in these. We need people to get the tough feedback and to hear it and then to change. So I got to test this very cool coaching tool, which I think is sort of where we're heading in this world of manager enablement with AI through the Neuro Leadership Institute. So the tool is called Niles, and you have a conversation with it. This is the feedback I want to deliver to my direct report. What do you think? It got me on tone. Like, your tone is very caring. So I think there is some being able to kind of like give some coaching around that would be really interesting to explore, because it's one thing to get the bullet points and here's how you approach this conversation. But if I'm going to go into that conversation with a whole different tone, that's different. So I think that stuff and the opportunity to scale it. Now, I don't think that's a replacement, and I know that's not what we're saying, for like human coaches who can do an incredible job of helping you surface tensions, opportunities, whatever. But in those quick moments of, I'm going into this one-to-one and I have to have this conversation, what's the 10-minute conversation I can have with this coaching tool to get to feel really confident and like I'm going to deliver this well? That's such a game changer at scale.
Yeah. And I think, we are seeing a lot of, and I just posted on LinkedIn about this, where it seems like there are a lot of ChatGPT wrapper type products that are coming out for every potential use case. And it sounds like Niles it's going to be a little bit niche-y towards a specific use case, and it's built on that. And I think
it's built with all the background of I'm getting their name wrong, Neuro Leadership Institute, which I think is different than a ChatGPT wrapper for sure. Yeah.
Yes. And I think it's interesting to just think about the role that is going to ultimately have, where certain employees, like, would they rather just leverage ChatGPT directly for some of these things, where ChatGPT, does it have all of that background? No. But does it have all the background on me at this point?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it knows way too much about me. And I just actually read something that was talking about, if there's a lawsuit or a subpoena, like, there's no confidentiality with ChatGPT. And so, you're telling, in certain instances, you're all of your secrets, and it has all of that background. So it's just interesting to think about the way all of these tools are coming about and how they're all going to be integrated. But I guess just from like a tactical integration perspective, you've talked about, you guys have these power hours. Mm-hmm. Sounds like that has been a helpful use case for you guys. I guess what has been beyond that, one key step that you have been able to integrate daily into your guys' processes that is now part of the day-to-day work week?
Yeah, we also dedicated budget. So when we first went into the power hours, we had no budget set aside for AI tools, right? If it was like free and integrated, you could use it. And so before we even committed to doing this, I was like, we have to give budget. So we basically set aside for every employee, they could use like our pro ChatGPT account, which is great because they don't train the model on anything you put in there. I think you can put like more confidential stuff in there and it won't train, but I still don't put confidential things in ChatGPT because my worst outcome would be that I put something in and an employee then asks that and suddenly gets the answer of the thing that I've been asking about. Yeah. So I'm very careful with that. So we set aside budget for that. And then we're very clear on like what you should and should not be putting in there, like as a company. Mm-hmm. And then beyond that, we actually have like an AI Slack channel where people are just like sharing TikToks that they've seen, classes they're taking. Like our CFO just shared a TikTok that was like, this guy's great. I shared like a course that I'm trying to take. Like people are sharing use cases. Oh, I built this, I did that. And we're seeing more conversation happen in there than some of our other channels, which is like good because it means like people are exploring, they're feeling comfortable sharing the things they're exploring. And I think like creating that we're all in this together feeling of like exploration is also really important. My newsletter this week was all about like, how do you foster a culture of exploration? I think if you want like AI usage to become a daily habit, you also have to foster things like curiosity, and people need to feel psychologically safe to like try something silly and then not be called silly for trying it. So I think that has been a big part too.
100%. I think so much of this is about creating like a safe space for your people to experiment. And there was Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce, was actually just talking about in an interview how employees are not equipped to deal with the pace of change that is taking place today. And,
My favorite topic.
Well, yeah, I mean, what used to take 2 years is now taking 2 days or hours. So it is such an unprecedented level of change and pace of change. So it's like, how do we rewire people to be adaptable and ready for that change? I think a lot of it has to do with curiosity. A lot of it has to do with creating that safe space of experimentation. I guess, Kaylee, what else are you guys seeing at SurveyMonkey related to this? Do you feel like it's not being in that startup type environment? Do you feel like it's a similar mentality?
Yeah, one of our core values is get curious. So certainly that is just kind of like part of how we operate here. I think in a way it's like reshaping your skills. It's reshaping leadership behaviors. It's reshaping how people collaborate. It's sort of trying to like think differently, not to take that from Apple, but like it's just a different approach to how you might have always done something. There's this great concept around preferences, traditions, requirements, PTR. And so if we can kind of break away from some of those and shift towards this reshaping idea, innovating, getting really curious about it, I think that makes such a big difference to just think about things you've always done, but how can we do them better? How can we do them faster? How can we like make sure we're kind of getting what we need in this moment? And in like the simplest examples, our recruiting team is building out reusable prompts with gems from Gemini for sourcing, outreach, candidate pitches, like stuff you might have in your back pocket anyway as a recruiter. Now it's plug and play, and that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I think some of the things that I have been trying to figure out, like what is the best solution for particularly big companies and I would say remote companies as well. How are you most effectively sharing all of these best practices where it feels like everybody's kind of operating in their own little AI silo?
Yeah.
And it's like, how are you most effectively sharing all of this? I think, Abba, you brought up some interesting use cases around like power hours and other ways of sharing these sorts of tools. But it seems like every department has their own use case on how AI is going to be most effective. So a little bit of it kind of has to be decentralized to a certain extent. But I think one of the things we are seeing is a lot of conversation around like, okay, well, this person is using this tool that way. I don't even know how they did that.
Yeah.
How can we have this shared learning that we're all kind of like operating at the same baseline? I think some of it does come down to we all have our own levels of curiosity and exploring this sort of stuff. So that feels like a big piece of the conversation. And I guess, Kaylee, related to that, on the flip side, what has been some of the biggest resistance that you've seen internally? Like, has it been managers, ICs? Has it been leadership in just getting some of this stuff adopted?
Yeah, it's a good question. I do think across the board, people are interested. There's a lot of, Heba, you said this already, there is a lot of, there's some resistance around the ethical nature of AI. We are like a social impact, inclusion-based company. So that's important to our employees, and we're glad for that. So we've sort of addressed that in the last couple of town halls in different ways. I'd say like the biggest challenge has been time more than anything. It's hard to carve out the time to learn something new in a company, in any organization right now. We are all inundated with things to do that need to get done right away, and learning can take a back seat really quickly. So keeping things light and practical, short sessions, real examples. We've got an AI inspiration Slack channel too of like, here's what I plugged in, here's what I got. Some of it is just silly and fun, and some of it is work related. And I think all of those are good ways of learning. But it has felt, at least from where I sit, a bit like sort of grassroots. Like we're all going to do this, and I think we talked about the size of the ship of SurveyMonkey versus WorkGreek, right? Like this is a big ship to kind of turn around, opposed to smaller companies. And so I think these light, practical, short, here's what I'm doing, here's how I think you can do it, and then hopefully this fall with some of these more practical AI sessions for our leaders will make a big difference to kind of just embedding that more fully into the organization.
Yeah. And it seems like this conversation around like ethical and, how ethics in general seems to be coming up across the board, but it does feel like there is a place, somebody mentioned this in the comments, of AI policy. I think it's like, it's not just AI policy, but it's like AI philosophy, and really being able to spell that out so that you have really clear guidelines for your people around that. And I think that's going to be the next wave of, okay, well, here is our philosophy on how we are using AI from a use case perspective. Here's how it's embedded into performance management. Here's how it's embedded into employee development. And you're kind of getting more of that scaffolding in each of those areas around it. But I do feel like there is this Wild West element of it right now. I'm curious, related to some of the use cases, and somebody actually brought this up in the comments. I think there are certain elements of like ChatGPT, for example. It might be able to get to the answer so fast without you having to do any of the work or thinking yourself. How have you guys dealt with that internally? Is that something that, like the original thinking is gone? How are you thinking about that from it? Like, are you okay with that? Is that something that is like, just get the work done as efficiently as possible? How do we frame that?
As a society, I'm not okay with it. I think you all saw that like recent report that it's like, it's kind of making people more dumb because they're not thinking. And that genuinely, like as a human being on this earth in this timeline, really worries me. It worries me for our employees because I still want them to retain critical thinking. Still want them to be curious about things. And I think sometimes because ChatGPT can give you the answer so quickly, you almost like lose your curiosity about why something is the way that it is. And even when I go deep with, I'll go back and forth. Like when I first started using AI, I mostly just spent time arguing with it about HR. I was like, no, that's the wrong approach. What about this? And I spent would go back and forth for a while.
Yes, you're right. Yes, you're right, Eva.
It just keeps being like, here's how you do it. I'm like, you're wrong. Here's how I actually want to do it. I was the person fighting with it, but I do worry about it for our employees. Like there are things, administrative tasks, things you can do quickly. What we keep reminding our employees is even whatever you do, you still have to read what it spits out at you. Yeah. So like you can go ahead and use it, but you also need to do a layer of your own editing. Like, and that I think is where you can layer in the think critically about the thing you are reading that is coming back to you. Is that something you would say? Is that something you should do? We had this like use case where a manager like asked ChatGPT to do something to how to coach this person, and it gave them this like really awful idea. And the manager like went to their manager and was like, what do you think about this idea? Like really excited about it. And the manager came to me and was like, what do I even say? It's the worst idea I've ever heard. And I was like, you go back and you tell the person that like it is conditioned to reinforce all the things you've been telling it and reinforce that your idea is good. It's not trying to pressure test your thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
But like we did a lot of training around that. We went to our department leaders and we were like, hey, whatever you all ask, you need to think about it and also realize it is going to tell you, great idea. We all laugh about it now, where we'll send screenshots where it's like, love it. Or it's like, great idea. You're so right. Just so we keep reminding everyone else to think about the thing you are doing.
Yeah. It has been well documented. I mean, there was a recent release by OpenAI in one of their latest versions. I think they actually backtracked on it, but it was like overly sycophantish. And they literally had to like pull the release because it was whatever it is now, it was like that on steroids. So that is definitely something that has not gone away. And I've even said to it at times, like, why are you just agreeing with everything? And it will be like, you're right, Alex. Like, you need to be more critical. So there is so much just confirmation bias that's happening. And I do think that is such an important thing to think about as part of this conversation. And I think that kind of leads me into our next piece of this conversation, which is like, what are the core competencies that are still hypercritical, particularly for managers as you're thinking about developing them? I mean, to me, like making sense of and strategic reasoning and really making sense of the noise, because AI, it's proving that it's very good at solving problems, but it's not very good at picking out where do you even start and what are the right problems to solve. So if you give it a good prompt, it's very good. But if you're not starting with that prompt, you're kind of dealing with chaos.
Yeah.
So as you think about like, the future of work and people development, and like, what are the top 3 to 5 core set of skills that your managers absolutely need? I know, how about you mentioned like delivering and receiving feedback. Obviously, that's always going to be part of it. Like, walk me through you've seen a lot of reports come out about Amazon flattening their organization, and Gusto just came out with a report where the number of ICs per manager is 6 today compared to 3 5 years ago. And the chart looks like this. It's like logarithmic. So what if that trend continues? What does the future of an organization look like? And what does the future of a leader look like? Maybe Kaylee, we'll start with you.
Yeah. I mean, the things so in addition to the feedback piece, just like being a thoughtful performance manager, I think like strategic prioritization is something that our managers need more than ever. And Alex, you said it really well. It's for that reason of you're managing more people, organizations are becoming flatter. You're getting this direction from senior leadership, and you have to sort of be able to, and maybe this is the second one, manage up appropriately to say like, this is what we've got in front of us. This is what you're telling me. These are the things I think we need to let go of or to put on the back burner or need to prioritize over anything else. But I think in my experience, those middle managers have the hardest time with that strategic prioritization, not because it's a conflict. They're getting this from their ICs and they're getting this from their leaders, and they have to be the ones to translate to both of those really critical audiences. Like, what is the most important thing that we can do with the people we have right now? And what's the realistic timeline that's baked into that? Because we're all living in this world. Like you said, how about like 12 months ago? I don't know. What were we doing yesterday? Like that's been time for the last 5 years. And when you add in a layer of work changing constantly, new technology, like organizations changing every 6 months, you have to have that communication skill in the middle, I think. And that's not going anywhere. And I do think an AI can be a strategic thought partner in that. Hey, AI, this is what I see as my priorities. This is what my manager sees. How do I have a thoughtful conversation with them to raise what I think is most important? Like, that's a great use of that tool as a thought partner. Yeah. Then how do you translate that? So I can see some uses there.
Yeah. And you mentioned middle managers struggle with strategic prioritization today. I guess, do you see that as a potential area where like, AI is not good at it today, but maybe 5 years from now it will be. So I guess that goes into part of that future conversation. But I guess, Heba, what are some of your thoughts as you're hearing this?
Yes to all of that. And then I think the one I would add is like, managers are also pretty bad at determining like what someone needs to grow and develop in. Because we all anchor to like our bias of how we work. But technically, if you're managing more people, let's say like we're looking at teams being like 10, 10 employees to one manager. I do not know a single human being who could figure out 10 people, all their skills, their weaknesses, how to coach and develop all of them. A coach could do that. An average manager, I'm sorry, today, no way. In 10 years, also probably no way, unless we've radically changed our conception of what a manager is. Yeah. They are not people who are skilled in the area of identifying growth opportunities for others. And that's like where I see the biggest friction between manager and employee today. And so where I've seen AI help a lot is helping you set like core competencies, or even taking a job description. I'll take our job description, I'll drop it in there and I'll say, what are the 5 core competencies? By the way, I've already done it when I built the job description, but then I do it again after. And I say, what are the 5 core competencies? How would you coach someone? How would you lay out that they're doing this not well, and best in class? And it kind of breaks out this coaching and kind of makes it simple in a framework where managers can understand. So now if I have 10 employees, I could leverage AI to figure out the strengths and weaknesses of everyone on the team. Potentially, I could build a skills gap map just of my team that could maybe better help me as I am recruiting for said team. Also, I do think really stellar HR people should be building reskilling projects right now for what their org gaps are in the future. And they should be building these programs, giving them to managers and saying, here you go. You have 10 people on your team. Here we've like analyzed their skills, their previous experience, their resume, what they've said when they're onboarding and coming in, what they said in the interview, and we anchored it against core competencies for this job. Here's what it looks like when they're doing it. Here's how to set expectations. Like, I think AI could be used to do a lot of the framework building to help managers become better coaches. Or my like crazy theory, can I share my crazy theory, Alex? Is like managers just don't do that anymore in the future. They don't do career development and skill development. They really focus on prioritization and day-to-day work getting done. And you outsource that career growth to an external third party who actually has the time, the expertise, and the energy to devote to your employees.
Yeah, I think it's not that crazy of an idea. And honestly, I think there's a world where like a lot of our customers view Boon as like their employee growth resource for their organization. So I think there's a world where like somebody like Boon helps in that area. There's also selfish plug. There's also a world though. I want to give another plug to this company, Windmill, which is actually a technology company that they're a startup, former founder of Yext, if you've heard of that.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool business. And basically they're talking very similar to what you're talking about, where it's essentially outsourcing the day-to-day management of employees, where like you're not going to have time to do one-on-ones with 12 of your ICs. You're basically through Slack going to automate, okay, what were your top 5 accomplishments this week? What were your top 5 blockers? It's going to aggregate your meeting notes, your calendar invites, all of the key workflows that you had from the last week, and basically summarize and aggregate that data for the manager to basically do all of the work that you're talking about, Heba. So, and it's all native in Slack, which is where most people are working today.
Yeah.
So I think it's like, what role does a third party play? What role does technology play? How do you see that overlap? And I do really think that is where things are headed. So it's interesting to think about that. I think some of the other things that I would just think about from a manager perspective are like, managers are serving as like the emotional pulse on the organization as well. So if you are removing that layer entirely, there is a cultural aspect to it that has to be considered. And I think, they're kind of like the culture carriers in a lot of organizations that we've seen. So I think that's something to think about. But Kaylee, I guess any other thoughts as you're hearing?
No, I love that idea. I mean, they're like, yes, I think that's a great idea. I feel like I'm going to try it with my team just as a test run. Because I think one of the hardest things as a manager, as an L&D leader, is you can't build custom growth pathways for 1,000 people in an organization. For 50 people in an organization, that's too much. And like bringing AI in to help to do that, brilliant. Like that takes the time of years of work down to a couple minutes.
Yeah. I recently started a project. I actually just started this project out of the passion that I have for like L&D, which is so dorky of me. I understand.
I love that.
And then I went to my CEO and he's like, why did you do this? Like, do you have time to do this? And I was like, I just wanted to do this. I thought it was fun. I took all of our departments and I wrote out like our 10 core competencies specific to that department. So like if you're looking like something like a marketing team, like they should have SEO knowledge, they should know how to copyright. And I want to take all of our core talents, basically build a skills map across our org, and then take every single job description and build job descriptions of the future, where I think that most of our jobs will be AI augmented in the future. I do not believe like it might entirely replace some jobs, but I don't think it'll entirely replace all jobs. I think more common would be like all jobs will be augmented by a certain percentage with AI.
Sure.
And so then if you're looking at, I really want to build our job descriptions to say, okay, 75% of this job is a human related job. 25% of it can be augmented with AI. Here are the tools we'd recommend. And basically going back, taking those skills, threading them through the job description, threading them through job descriptions of the future, just to see what I would learn about my organization. And mind you, like I'm only at a 55-person organization, so I know each employee intimately. Like I know their skills, their weaknesses, just from working with them, hearing from their manager. So I'm able to do this at scale. I'm not sure how it would work, but I do think if you want to be the HR team of the future that is the smartest and savviest with anything AI related, you have to start thinking about what are their skills in our org? How do we support these managers? And what frameworks can I give them? So I've been doing a lot of that.
I love that too, because I think there is this, like I've seen some AI enablement jobs out there under L&D teams in HR functions. And I'm like, cool, but you're asking one person to enable an entire organization around AI. Whereas I love putting that in the job description, makes it really clear, like, how will you be expected to use this? You can use it even better. Great. Like we're here for that. But I like that onus on the like function, the person, the job description. I think that's really smart.
And I think managers then also, if you have those frameworks for them, their job becomes a little easier. But I also do really think like managers have to be radically rescoped in the future.
Yeah.
And I'm so curious, Alex, what's going to happen to all those companies that cut that management layer? I want to know what their attrition is going to look like. Because if you think about it, like anytime someone leaves your company, to replace them, they've estimated is like what, 1 to 2 times the salary of that person. Imagine the person makes like 150. That means like 300K is going to potentially like that's time and energy, retraining someone, all of that. What if you just like invested that money in an AI tool to help managers so they didn't have turnover? Like to me, that budget, that would be my argument in the budget meeting. Well, either we give them tools or the attrition will happen and we're still incurring costs and more cost every time people leave.
Yeah. And I guess that would be my next question to you guys, I guess, around green lighting different sorts of AI based initiatives right now. I guess what has been your approach to having those conversations with leadership? Is it what you just said, Heba, around retention? Is it, I guess, are you feeling pushback? Because I know L&D is traditionally an area where, it could be difficult to get new budget. There's been a lot of cuts over the last 5 years. How are you seeing it as we're kind of in this new wave of AI and L&D? Kaylee, maybe we'll start with you.
That's such a good question. I'm not seeing the budget yet. And this is like no shade to SurveyMonkey at all. It's like, it's so new. It's figuring out like, what would the budget be for? Who would we bring in? I mean, like I said, we're looking at this Harvard Business School professor. I think that's huge. It's for 100 people in our organization. We've got 1,000. Like we have to be able to scale what comes out of that workshop really quickly with the organization. And I think to Heba's point, that costs money. So I think, and it's extraordinarily difficult to get L&D funding and budget right now, I think. So I don't have a good answer on this. I'd love to hear other people's answers on this, quite frankly, for my own good. What do you think, Heba?
I think this is going to be a bold statement. So I'm going to caveat it as a bold statement. I think every company in the future would be a disservice if they did not have L&D be one of its bigger budgets. If you're thinking about talent and retaining talent, like there's going to be a limited amount of people. I mean, potentially we'll all learn to use AI. And there was like that quote, Kira told us the quote, she's fictitious, but like, you are not going to be replaced by AI. You're going to be replaced by somebody who knows how to use AI better than you. Yeah. I still think like when you have someone talented who understands your organization, who knows how things move and happen, who is bought in and is a culture add and is a stellar employee, you should want to keep that person. And like investing in L&D budgets is how you potentially keep that person. Yeah. And we're seeing Gen Z leaving jobs. Like actually they debunked this with some studies. Like Gen Z isn't leaving jobs faster than millennials. I think they left at like the same pace, but we still have seen Gen Z and millennials leave jobs on average, like every 1 to 2 years.
Right.
I think we'll continue to see that. And I think the way to really captivate your talent, keep them, develop them, grow them, is to invest in that L&D budget. And the way I frame it when we talk about it internally is like, I didn't have to fight for that budget for ChatGPT. I got my CEO's bought in. So I got really lucky where I said, I want to do this, but we have to have budget. And he said, don't worry about that. We will have budget. And I was like, okay, that was really easy for me. Right. I was like, oh, okay, I don't have to fight that. Okay. But I do think like every CEO, especially the ones who are writing manifestos, which is like every CEO is thinking about AI. So if you are going to advocate for budget for something AI related, I would bring it back to like, what is your CEO saying? What is your company saying their position is? And I would say, like, if we have internal employees who can embrace this and do the work and learn with these tools, that is how we build the company that actually wins.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see the clear winners are going to be the people who adopted AI quickly, who adjusted their product strategy instantly, and then went internally and got their employees to also do that. And then potentially they'll run very lean because they've augmented a lot of their jobs with AI and they have to spend less money on headcount. Yeah. It's also scary. Sorry, I say all of this, Alex, and I just have to say it's like very scary for the average job hunter to hear this type of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, scary, but if history is any indication, there will be entirely new sectors of jobs that that will arise that we don't even know what they look like today. So, there are definite threats to a lot of the white collar workforce, especially entry level and even potentially middle managers. But I think as I'm hearing you talk, Heba, I think something that just came to mind is maybe there is a reframe around even the term like learning and development. It's like reskilling. Yeah. It's reskilling for this world of AI, which is needed. So L&D through a traditional lens, and I think like leadership development through a traditional lens, like it's more seen through the framing of how are we going to reskill our people in this new world. And I think that is what the next 24 to 36 months are going to be about, is like, how quickly are you able to do that? Yeah. So I think I think getting ChatGPT off the ground is I feel like that's a common first step in getting their first initiative greenlit. And I think that's probably an easier one because the CEO has most likely used ChatGPT and has seen the firsthand. But I think, it might be challenging with some of the more traditional type investments around this. Well, I know we've got a few questions here. I got one from Heather saying, I'm seeing conversations about coaching the AI to produce an appropriate tone / type of response. So there are all these hacks for getting ChatGPT to be appropriately critical rather than sycophantic. I haven't necessarily found that, but it's interesting. From a people perspective, in an org using AI, who manages the tone / type of response? And who calibrates the tone and approach over time? Who's responsible for that approach if it goes sideways?
That's such a good question.
It's such a good question. I think that's the danger of like not having the human element, quite frankly, is like, I've just been introduced to this concept of no blame culture, where like, it's not, we're not going to look for who was at fault, but what broke down within the system. And I would say like, if that's what comes out is like, hey, the system is coaching with this X, Y, and Z tone. Great. How do we fix it? But in no way am I suggesting anyone read off of what ChatGPT give them and the tone that they give them. Like that's where the human element needs to come in. That's where you, as a manager, whether you're using a performance coaching tool or not, you need to know your employees. You need to know what motivates them, what demotivates them, what's going on in their personal life. Like to some degree, like you have to know your people. So I guess that's the human element, in my opinion. Yeah. It's a good question.
Heather, I'm going to think about that like all day, but I just had this wild thought. I'm really pulling some wild thoughts out today, Alex. This is fun. What if there's a way to like set the tone based on your values and your culture? So we have like 6 values, 5 values. and then 6 operating principles. So we always tell our employees, like, we wrote these values, but also we wrote these operating principles for how you actually live these values. What if there was a way at like an org-wide level where you could train the tone to be, here are our values, here's how we operate, and here's what we appreciate as a company, respond that way? I just don't know if that's like a capability of ChatGPT. So I have to go, I'm going to be thinking about this now literally all week. But that's like the only thing I think about it, especially if you're like, because I think it responds differently to all of us. And I don't know, unless you build your own custom, I don't know. Like, could we force it to reply the way we want it to reply? That was a thought I had. Oh, cool. You can.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. You can do that. I think,
but for your org, like, I know I've trained mine to like not hype me up. I've been like, stop being so nice to me. I don't want to hear that all my ideas are good.
So do you guys have like the company ChatGPT or the, So if you have the company one, you can like train it on company information. So like that can be fed into each, or like into the initial library or whatnot. I forget where you put it, but some of that initial overview information and like brand, tone, and voice, you can do that. I haven't necessarily seen it like wildly come through.
Yeah.
Somebody said it does not do a good job.
Yeah. It hasn't really been super dialed in on that. I guess one other question we got, which I think is interesting, and it ties into a lot of the conversations we're having, which are this idea that career pathing is pretty old and antiquated, and even putting together basic expectations for like, here's what we need you to do in this role and this segment of the business and whatnot. Everybody is starting from a different point. How can AI help with creating more personalized learning paths? And I feel like personalization at scale seems to be something that AI is doing a great job of unlocking.
Yeah.
How do you see that playing a role in career pathing?
That's such a good question. We are like in the age of personalization. So like, you open Netflix, it tells you what to watch. I open Spotify, it recommends 3 brands I'm definitely going to listen to and probably love. I think that's what we're going to be. We're going to be in the era of personalization when it comes to career pathing, where like they're very individual to the person, to their skills, to their strength, to their weaknesses, to any assessments you do. And almost to the point where, like, somebody said once, like, there'll be a future where you could build like an HR agent. So each of your employees feels like they have their own HR person. And I was like, that's a nightmare. Like, I don't want to be, sorry. But I do think then it's going to become more personalized. Like, I do think career mapping or like you have to be a manager to get a promotion. Like, I think that's dead and gone. And I think we're going to see more. There was a word for this, and I was really passionate about this topic like 5 years ago, and I forgot the word, but there's going to be, I think, a movement where you are building paths at your org that are custom to what your org needs, but then also the human. So your talent will move more fluidly. It won't just be like manager, senior manager, director, senior director. Maybe that will be your leveling framework internally, but we will start to build these paths with people that takes into account their personalized skills, what the organization needs, and maps the roles that way. Non-linear growth.
Non-linear growth. Yeah.
Thank you, Andrea. I couldn't remember that word.
Yeah. I love that, because I think, like, as an L&D leader at these bigger companies, that's what we're constantly hearing. Well, like, it's not a one size fits all. Great. Like, but the time it takes to build a personalized pathway is too much. So being able to do all that, and then that opportunity within a company to say, man, this is the hole we've got to fill, and having someone internal to jump in there and upskill them would be huge. It's less of a search and find. It's like, you've got the repository to say, okay, Jeff will be amazing at this. Let's plug him in over here for a little while. Like, I think I spend a lot of time talking about and ideating on job shadowing and making sure that we've got like a bench. Well, I do think this idea around career pathing and AI can like get you to that bench much faster. And maybe even potentially there's this bias element of AI. There's a bias element with humans too. So we have to be able to like have that conversation as well of like, well, how am I making sure that the person I'm putting forward as a manager really is the best person for that? If we had all of that data lined up side by side, which is so difficult to get now, data across HR, the bigger you get, the harder that is. I think that would be awesome. Yeah. It's a great idea.
So we're going to get better at succession planning because I've always been just awful at it.
Right.
Awful.
In our dreams. Awesome. Well, this was great. I feel like if we were to have this conversation 6 months from now, it would sound a lot different. And I think that just speaks to the pace of change here. And I think, you can all follow Heba and Kaylee on LinkedIn and see what they're up to at Workweek and SurveyMonkey. And I know, Heba, you've got your big Safe Space Summit coming up in October, where I feel like you'll be talking about this a lot. And I just appreciate both of you being here. I feel like there's some great perspectives, and I'm excited to see where this goes. But there's a lot of exciting opportunities and potential areas where I think we can drastically improve the employee experience.
For sure. And I loved the comments in the chat. Like people gave so many good tips. I was like, wait a minute, I need to be writing these down.
I know. I need to get back in there. Great.
So thank you everyone who did that, because that's amazing.
Yes. Appreciate all of your engagement, and thank you for spending an hour with us. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Alex. Bye.
All right.
Bye.